Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arrowhead Stadium here in Kansas City, Missouri. This is Hondo Carpenter. I'm your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast with a complete recap of the Raiders' controversial 1917 loss here to the um, Kansas City Chiefs. For those of you that have followed me for any amount of time, you know that I talk about people that are constantly complaining about the referees usually don't have good football teams. And any of you that have followed me for any amount of time also know that I have friends that are referees both in the NFL and at various levels of football. And I will always give the benefit of the doubt to the officials because I know those men and their integrity. But I'm going to tell you, second time this year where I'm shaking my head, and I'm going to be very blunt, honest. I'm not at all going to come out and say the refs intentionally robbed the Raiders. I'm not saying that, but I'm telling you, if Roger Goodell doesn't blow us his stack at what happened today, then it's going to be very hard to at least not suspect it. So let me take you through the end. The Raiders are driving. They're within field goal range. Now, Daniel Carlson had missed 3 field goals, 55, 56, and 58 yards. The 58-yarder, I believe that first one was had some wind resistance, but they were in where I believe he would have comfortably hit this one. I mean, 55-yarders in cold weather, I mean, those are hard. Those are very, very hard. And I don't care how good you are. And I think he's the best kicker in the NFL. Those are difficult outdoors. And that's just the reality. Not making excuses. It's just reality. But they were within field goal range. Um, I believe he would have hit it to win the football game. So there's a controversial play, and the ref comes running in from the side, signaling a false start. Now, in fairness to the ref, I went back and watched. I did not see a false start, but I did see an illegal shift. But the point of the matter is, doesn't matter. The ref is signaling a false start. JPJ had had hiked the football before Aiden O'Connell was ready. Now, Aiden said, "Hey, when I came out of the huddle and I'm clapping my hands trying to get guys' attention, it's loud." It probably told him I was ready for the football. Some people think that maybe Aiden was covering for JPJ. Doesn't matter. The point of the matter was it was a communication error. It's not like JPJ did it on purpose. But the ref comes running in and he's signaling false start. That's what he's signaling. AP saw it. I said to Max, and you can go watch the video. I asked Max about it in the locker room. I got the audio of that. You can go listen to our audio if you go find the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast on Spotify or Apple. But I asked Max about it. What did you see? And he goes, looked over and the guy's signaling false start. Because that's what I saw. I asked Colton Miller the same question. Again, you can watch the audio of that on our Spotify or our Apple Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. And Colton says, I'm laying on the ground. I look back and I see the guy signaling it. Now, AP, we've already got the video up. You can watch the video. He just smiles. He doesn't want to get fined. And can you blame him? But here's the whole deal. I don't, in my heart of hearts, just because I know so many officials, I don't believe it's intentional, but that's crappy, shoddy work. And at the very least, you suspend the guy. At the very least. Because yet again, just like in Miami, where all of a sudden the replay shows a face mask and the ref just kind of drops a flag. Oh, well, and they have some excuse, whatever. At some point, you have to protect the integrity of the game. I mean, it was a sham. It was an absolute farce. And here's the problem. I mean, you heard Antonio Pierce talk about this last year at the Super Bowl. These are the Patrick Mahomes rules. The appearance I'm not preaching at you, but this is why the Bible says you even avoid the appearance of wrong. Because even the appearance, even if it's not wrong, it's the appearance. If you're the NFL, I'm sorry, Raider Nation has a right to be livid. And let me tell you something. This football team, I've been telling you they hadn't quit on the coach. I told you all week. I said I would not be shocked at a Raider win. I would be surprised. I totally said that. Just down as injured as they were, and yet still found a way. And we're going to get into all the good because, man, there was a ton of it. But absolutely terrible, controversial. I know the NFL loves that. They love that attention, in my opinion. But it was a terrible look for the National Football League. Chiefs don't care. They won, and you can't blame them. But the Raiders, who are just scratching, fighting, and clawing, I'm going to tell you this. I've covered this team 5 years. I've never seen this team as angry as they are right now, as united as they are right now, and as angry as they are right now. Never seen either one of those two. They are in lockstep. They're angry and they are united. Now, let's talk about some of the things. Sincere McCormick was terrific. Absolutely terrific. And I know, to the credit of a lot of Raider fans, I've had a lot of people asking me, where has Sincere been? But he had not demonstrated this stuff in practice. You may remember going into training camp this year. I said, that's a guy I had high hopes for and just really didn't emerge. But you know what? This is the NFL. There are some guys who maybe don't do good in the classroom, but kill it on tests. Clearly, Sincere is sincere in that. Because when his number got called, Sincere McCormick looked terrific today. Let me give you his stats real quick. He 12 carries for 64 yards, 5.3 average. And at one point I put on Twitter, this guy, you just got the feeling he's going to break one. He was getting stronger. The best running backs get stronger as the game goes on. Brock Bowers, him and Jakobi Meyers. Brock Bowers, 10 catches, 140 yards. Jakobi, 6 catches, 97 yards. Those guys are just both studs. I am going to say this, and you guys know, Trey Tucker, he looked very good. But DJ Turner, he left the game injured, and it didn't look good. And say a prayer for my buddy, if you would. Good kid. Great kid. I love DJ. In fact, I was texting with some people he and I are close with, just trying to give him some updates. I just disappointing, and certainly feel for him. But let's go look at, Aiden O'Connell. That's got to be the story. 23 of 35, 340 yards. He was sacked 3 times, but he had 2 touchdowns and had a quarterback rating of 116. Now, coming into training camp, I told you the feeling on the Raiders staff was that the job was Aiden O'Connell's to lose, but Gardner was going to get a chance to beat him out. Both quarterbacks just digressed and looked not good. And remember, I told you about Bobby Bowden. When one does, you blame the player. When more than one, you blame the coaching. Clearly, the quarterbacking on this team went backwards because it's been better since Getsy and Rick have been fired. And I know Craig was fired too, but that's offensive line. We'll talk about that later. But the quarterback play has been better, and Aiden O'Connell looked like the Aiden O'Connell of old. I've been saying all year the Raiders clearly don't have a quarterback, and it's not too late for somebody to emerge. I'm not saying that Aiden O'Connell told the Raiders by his performance today, don't go draft a quarterback, because that clearly didn't happen. I think they're all in on drafting a quarterback. But I also think there has to be a glimmer of hope that you saw the Aiden of old back. Now, I want you to think about this one. I want you to just listen to this for a minute. Aiden was 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, quarterback rating 116. Patrick Mahomes, 26 completions on 46 tries. So he had 11 more attempts, and only 3 more completions. Okay. He was 306 yards, 1 TD with an 84 quarterback rating. Aiden O'Connell outplayed Patrick Mahomes today. And by the way, I don't want to hear anything from Chiefs fans because there was empty seats all over this stadium. And 3 times your fans booing your team. So you just keep that right there. And I was here and I saw what the Raiders were doing. They were brought the physicality. They just pounded on the Chiefs. It was a pounding today. And I credit them. They're the world champions for a reason. And regardless of what you want to say about officiating, it's not them. They're not the officials. And they did enough to win. Hey, I say it all the time when it's the Raiders, and I'm going to say it when it's the Chiefs. You don't apologize for a win in the National Football League. But Aiden O'Connell just outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Daniel Carlson missed 3 field goals. The first one, I think it was 56 yards. Then, or no, I think it was 58. Excuse me, 58, 56, and 55. But the 58er had some wind resistance. And I'm not blaming him one bit. If I was picking a kicker tomorrow and I got to pick any kicker in the league, I'm picking Daniel Carlson all day long. Best kicker in the league. And I'm going to tell you right now, there was not one player on this team even remotely frustrated. I'm already getting the email where players frustrated with AP for going for those field goals. No, every one of them believes in Daniel. And if you asked any player on this team, hey, if you could trade Daniel Carlson for any kicker in the league, who you trade him for? Nobody. I thought the offensive play calling was terrific. Um, these guys have gotten nothing but better. Scott Turner, if he doesn't get the job here, is demonstrating to the league how good he is. And I think the play calling was great. They put the team in position to succeed. Aiden O'Connell, no interceptions. The one fumble on the end of the play. And this is the deal. It would have been the Raiders' first game of the year with no turnovers. And it's controversial. So again, there are no silver linings in the NFL, and I'm not going to insult you and pretend that there are. I'm not going to insult my bosses and act like, oh, this is a moral. No, there's no moral victory. They lost. But for the second year in a row, they're walking out of Arrowhead, and this Chiefs team, took a beating. All you have to do is go back and look at our reporting on the game through all the players who were out injured. I mean, you're out Nate Hobbs. You're out Jacorian Bennett. You're out Epps. You're out Christian Wilkins. You're out Malcolm Koonce. I mean, let's just talk about some more guys. And the Raiders had 5 sacks today. Patrick Graham with a terrific game plan. Absolutely terrific game. You just held the world champions with a prolific offense under 20 points. With a defense minus 6 starters. I mean, it don't take a donkey brain at midnight and old Tim Barn to figure that one out. That's great coaching on his job. I mean, overall, you've got to give the coaching, the offense corner, defense corner, A's. Tremendous coaching. The killer, penalties, 9 for 101 yards. But again, young rookies, not all of them, but rookies making rookie mistakes. I'm sorry. In the world I come from, and I've been around the world of football a long time, and I've had the best. Don Shula and others talk to me about it. You don't like the penalties, but you get them and understand them when you're dealing with rookies. It's just part of the learning curve. It's like I heard one coach say it best. It's like I'm going to clean it up, a crappy diaper with a baby. Okay, you deal with them for 2 years, and then you get a kid for the rest of your life, but you deal with them for 2 years. And I'd obviously in world of football, you give them 1 year. If these penalties are still going on, then of course you're angry, but I'm not going to say a word about those. But I want to get into some of these defensive performances. Absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so let's just talk about this for a minute. Spills, 9 tackles. Adam Butler, if you DVR this game, go back and watch Butler. I've talked to you so much about gap integrity, and he's one of the best in the NFL, forcing to stay in his spot to force Patrick Mahomes not to be able to rush. Phenomenal job by Adam Butler. I thought he was terrific. Um, the DeCamerion Richardson, he had 5 tackles. Isaiah Polamalu, 5. I thought he was very good too. Max Crosby had 4, but I got to tell you, one of the things that really stood out to me is he was just chasing all day. Jack Jones, I thought Jack had a really good game. I thought Trayvon Merrick had a very good game. Another guy that Caleb Von Chason, big game from him, 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks. There was just so many guys today that had a really good football game. You just lost on the road to the 2-time defending world champions on the road, down 6 defensive starters. We're not even talking about the offense. Defense. And you lost by 2, and I think someone in the locker room, I'm not going to say who, but someone in the locker room told me it was 12.5-point underdogs. I don't know if that is accurate. I don't pay attention to that. I know I cover Vegas, but I don't cover that. And you just lost by 2 in a very, very controversial horse crap call. And you lose by 2 and should have won it. 2 times they played this year, and both times the Raiders should have won it. Both times. And I can tell you, if the Raider coaching staff had been in place with Aiden O'Connell when they played at Allegiant, Raiders would have won it. That was horrible. The play was terrible, but I'm not going to get into that because woulda, coulda, shouldas don't matter. A loss is a loss. So where do the Raiders now find themselves? What's next for them? Well, they get a little bit of a break, obviously, because they're playing on a Friday. They get a break. But I'm telling you right now, for all of you that wanted the tanking, there you go. But I've been telling you they're not tanking, and they just proved it. They just proved it. Gutty performance. But they lose again. So they stay with the worst record in the National Football League, the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes. And they're in it. But I'm telling you right now, at no time in this season, going back to training camp, has this team been more united than they are right now. They are united. They're angry. They are unified with one another. They're unified behind their coach and the coaching staff. This is a Raider team that everybody that faces them now the rest of the year is going to look at this tape and know, hey, this guy's got a lot of talent. If you want to say this team needs a rebuild, that's fine. You're welcome to that opinion, and I respect it. But don't send it to me because I don't care. You just went toe-to-toe on the road with the defending world champions. With all of the injuries, with rookies making rookie mistakes. And it took questionable officiating to do it. Do the Raiders need to reload? You better believe they do. They've got to upgrade at some key positions. But this is not a rebuild, and don't you let anybody tell you that it is. And don't you let anybody tell you this team's turned its back on Antonio Pierce. They're fighting. And all they were trying to do was win a football game. They weren't trying to have a pretty loss. There's no such thing as that. A loss is a loss, and every one of them sucks. Boy, there's a bad taste in everybody's mouth. If you just like good football, I just want good football. I want to be able to do a podcast and not talk about stupid officiating mistakes from the elite best of the best. The elite best of the best. Best of the best. When you're at the NFL, And now you've had two monster losses. Miami game certainly aided by that, but this one definitively proven. If you would have said, nope, false start, move them back, or even illegal, whatever, move them back, and they kick a field goal, or if they miss it, it's on them. It's on them. This made no sense. No sense. And I'm not going to try to make sense of it. I'm not going to insult you, and I'm not going to insult me. It's horse crap. And again, I'm saying that as someone who loves the game of football. I had one referee say to me one time, the best officiated games are when you don't even know the officials were there. And it just seems like a lot of times, more than any team I've ever covered, when you talk about the Raiders, it's constant. Now, is it was it the refs' fault that the Raiders had 9 penalties? Nope. I don't think they were calling it unfair. It was just that one at the end, a major screw up. And I want to reiterate, because I have so many friends in the officiating world, I do not believe it was, hey, intentionally, let's screw the Raiders. But if they don't do something about it, then you have no other recourse than to wonder if that's the case. I'm not calling for anybody to lose their job. Somebody's got to be. This is why I've said for years, officials should have to face the media. What, are they too special? Players do, coaches do. Why shouldn't officials? They get paid to be here. I would have loved to have said to the official, you were calling a false start. Clear. Everybody saw it. It's on national television. Can you explain why he's calling a false start? Whistle's blown. You overrule him? Anyone? I would have liked to have asked the referee in Miami, hey, if what your explanation is accurate, I'm not calling you a liar, why does it appear the ref just kind of drops the flag a little bit? Just kind of, oh yeah, here. I know the NFL doesn't mind the controversy. Raider Nation, your team played their guts out, and there are no moral victories in the NFL, but dadgummit, you should be proud of your team. My wife was literally jumping all over the place, screaming, and then crying because she's a Raider fan. And I told her, I got nothing. I got nothing. She's like, was that as bad as it looked? I said, yes. So there you go. What's the complete recap? A controversial loss. But if you needed any proof, your team is still swinging. I'm going to say this. I would suspect that every rational Raider fan feels a lot of pride tonight. You just went toe-to-toe with the 2-time world champion. And I was down there. I was at the locker room. I saw the Chiefs up close. One of them, I don't know, that wasn't one of them, almost bumped into me. They felt this one. And I know there are no moral victories, but you represented, your team represented you. And that's a big deal. A very big deal.